All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're joined by Sage Watson, Jordan Geist, and Shannon Meisberger. So if you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand. All right, Sean, go ahead.
So Jordan, with the Olympics looming and is there any sort of mentality or is there any sort of focus that you have to get into and to prepare for it? Or is it just something you try to look at as just another day?
Yeah, I can answer. So I think the biggest difference is that it's just a different stage. We've all competed at this track before, so the facility is awesome and it's new, but we've all been here before, so it's not really going to be too overwhelming. I've competed at USA Nationals before, so it's very similar to that, but obviously it's the Olympics, so it's a little bit different. So the approach is going to be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to treat it like any other day in the office.
And then Shannon, it's kind of the same thing when the Olympics loom. Is there sort of a bit more pressure? I know, as Jordan just said, you try and look at it as if it's any other day, but when it comes to the Olympics and then with opening ceremonies and what it means not only to the athletes but to nations, does it add a bit more pressure?
I mean, of course you try not to think about it, but I mean, you're always going to be like looking at who's in your lane. But the goal of a race is to not. So you have to focus on the moment. And at that point, once you're at the Olympics, for me, I'm just happy I made it. If I make the Olympics, I'm just going to be happy I made it there. And so those kind of races are more of a celebration than this kind of intense pressure, especially for student athletes where it's like, you don't have money riding on this. This is for the joy of competing.
And then Sage, one of the things I always think about is how, a lot of the sports that are in Olympics, when you have like the more mainstream ones like basketball and baseball, I mean, that's just sort of like people look at that and like there's leagues professionally, but I feel it's more special for track athletes because this is when the whole world will be able to see the showcase of the greatest athletes in the world. So how much does it mean for track athletes to compete in the Olympics, seeing as how, the professional circuit isn't always something that's highlighted as much as, say, the NBA or the MLB, but the Olympics is like the biggest sports from the Olympics all year round are track athletes and track events. So what does it mean for track athletes to have a shot at the Olympics?
Yeah, I think track and field is definitely highlighted more so on Olympic years than other events. And that's kind of a cool thing for our sport. But at the same time, we don't get as much attention on world championship years and throughout the Diamond League and the pro circuit. So hopefully the Olympics will help spike that interest and attention into our pro leagues like it does, for the basketball and other professional sports. But it's an honor to be recognized so much in an Olympic year, and it's exciting, and the world really comes together to celebrate track and field. So it's an exciting time for our sport.
Hey, Sage, David Kelly from KVOA here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, just kind of tell me about what it's been like to kind of train with Shannon and kind of tutor her and just your thoughts on what you saw last week in her final and how successful she was at it.
I've told Shannon I was so excited for her. I definitely really believed that she could do that, what she did last week. We knew she was capable of that months ago. So it's just so exciting to watch her do it in that high pressure situation. But it's been awesome to have Shannon as a training partner. It's been great to have someone push me, to have someone, to go to practice with, who we both get what each other does. We get what each other's going through. So it's just been really great to have her as a training partner and to watch her success, especially with the University of Arizona.
And Shannon, kind of take me through the last 100 meters of that race, what you saw, if you knew the LSU girl to the right had kind of hit the 10th hurdle and how you were able to take advantage of that to finish in second.
I mean, when I had a pretty good hurdle 8. I had been focusing on my hurdle 8. So then when I came in, I was kind of aware of my placement of being kind of within the top 4 or 5. And I got over and I had a kind of rough 9, but my 10 was really good. And then I was aware of the LSU girl hitting the hurdle. But at that point, I had already started to get into gear. So it wasn't one of those things where it's, oh, she hit the hurdle, now I have a chance. It was one of those moments where I was already in the mindset of kind of competing to get to that spot. So her hitting the hurdle is really unfortunate for her, but at that point, I was already kind of making the move just to try and overtake her anyway.
Did you know you were second when you finished? Were you aware of that? Did you feel it at that point?
No, because I had made it. I got second on the lean, so it was always, I kind of had to double check to be like, was I third or was I second? I knew I wasn't going to be first because I saw Anna pretty far ahead of me, but the second versus third was a question.
What's the reaction kind of been like at home? I know that you got a kind of a popular following back there in the Berkshires.
Yeah, I've got a lot of texts from my coaches and my friends. It's kind of been weird, especially because it's like one of those things where when you get second or like when you get third, you don't really, it's not quite the same feeling as winning. So I just like, you don't really know what to make of it. So when my friends text me, I'm like, thank you so much. And I'm like, but I don't really, it's hard to understand what that means when I'm not with them. They're not there to be like, kind of to have that reaction with them. So because I'm only getting like text messages and stuff or calls. Because I'm unfortunately not back home in Massachusetts until trials, hopefully till the Olympics. So it's just kind of a weird situation. I'm very happy, and all of my friends have been super supportive back home. But it's kind of a weird situation when I'm not there to enjoy it with them.
Have you ever competed against any of those top hurdlers like Dalilah Muhammad or Ashley Spencer, or any of them? And what's it going to be like to kind of be in that environment with the best in the world now?
I haven't competed with Dalilah Muhammad. I have competed with Sydney McLaughlin. I actually raced her at nationals, New Balance nationals my senior year, because she and I are actually the same age. Soul crushing, I know. So I had a moment that when I first raced her where it was like, she's so good, and I didn't have confidence in myself at that time. And my outlook in terms of track has really changed. So hopefully it's not going to change anything racing against them, because they're just another competitor. But when I was first racing, it would have been a huge problem.
And a question for Jordan. Jordan, obviously you trained initially when Turner Washington was at the U of A. What do you think sets him apart from the rest of the field in both the shot put and the discus?
Well, I think he succeeding at Arizona State, I think he as an athlete just kind of found the place that he sees as his home, and I think just him being a little more comfortable with his surroundings has allowed him to succeed there.
All right, Sean Fagan, go ahead.
So Jordan, I'm just curious, like, how was it or when was it, would you say, that you discovered you either had a love or a passion for throwing? Because it's such a unique sport.
Yeah, so I've been throwing since I was 8 years old, and my parents were both throwers in college, and then just kind of taking it year by year. Then once I got into middle school and high school, and I started improving a little bit more, I think I started finding my passion for it around then. And that's whenever I stopped playing like basketball and football, was whenever I started seeing my future in track, around high school.
And then you just mentioned how it sort of stems from in the family. Was this something that you wanted to do outside of your family? Like, did you ever feel that because it was something in your family that you had to do it? Or was it a choice that you yourself made, that you felt like, hey, I like doing this, I'm good at it, this is something I want to do because I want to do it?
Yeah, my parents did a really good job. They never pushed me into the sport. It's a sport that I chose from a young age, and they were able to kind of give me some of their knowledge from an early age to build a good fundamentals and a sound base through high school into college.
And then Shannon, like, sort of a similar question to you, like, was track something that you had a passion for that you discovered, or was it something that sort of either ran in family or that it was something that somebody recommended for you? Like, how would you say that you found it?
It was kind of both a happy accident and kind of a familial thing. So my sister actually ran track when she was so Lenox, the high school I go to, was also combined middle school, which allowed middle school students to run high school track. So my sister was like 7th and 8th grade. She was running track, and I'm 2 years younger than her. So I saw her doing it, and I really wanted to do it. And she was running the 100 hurdles. And then once I actually started racing, she had stopped racing at that point. She went to a private school that didn't have track. And I started racing. I was playing soccer, skiing. I was cross country skiing and running track at the time. And I was like, I thought when I was younger, I was like, oh, it's going to be soccer is the sport that I do for the rest of my life. Like that's the sport that I really like. And then as I started running track, I was like, no, track's my sport. And then throughout like running track, I started to discover the 400 hurdles. I originally was like, I hate the 400 hurdles. Coach, you can't make me run those. And then I started running at them, and I was actually really good. So I was like, yeah, I guess I like the 400 hurdles. And then it started to become more and more of a love. And as I got more competitive, my aunt was actually a college 400 hurdler. So she had a little bit of experience to share with me, but it wasn't one of those things where it's like, I'm a track family. It was one of those things where I just kind of through kind of dipping my toes in, fell more and more in love with the sport.
And then when it comes to now as you round the corner with the Olympics, is that something that you ever thought about like growing up, that's something that you wanted to do, or that would be route, or is it just, watching the Olympics, enjoying seeing them, or is it now like, as you would say, like this is something you always wanted to do? Like, did you ever foreshadow maybe this happening, Shannon?
So I had told, when I was getting recruited for track, I had told most of the coaches that I wanted to go to the Olympic trials. Like it wasn't a thing of being on the Olympic team being on the table, but I had always said that I wanted to eventually make the trials because that felt like a more attainable goal. At the time where I was running, I wasn't running times where I felt like I would ever succeed at getting onto the Olympic team. Now I'm like, oh, the Olympic team is a possibility. It's not certain, but it's a possibility. So that was kind of outlook changed, but I never thought I was like, oh, I can definitely make it I could make it to the finals or anything like that. It was more, I'd like to at least be there.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any more questions for Shannon, Jordan, or Sage?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a couple for Sage. Sage, take me back to the day you ran the 54:32. What was that like? Did you feel extra fast that day, or were you just feeling really good, like you thought you might have a chance to run at that level?
Honestly, when I ran the Canadian record, I was just trying to make the final of the World Championship. So I was just laying it all out on the track, practicing what I had done all year and just put it together for that race. So it wasn't like a feeling like today I'm going to break the record. It was more of I want to go out there and get this done. And the record just came with it. So I think a big part of competition and competing is getting into that zone and that headspace where you want to win and you want to get to the next level. And I think that's the biggest thing that you can do going into a race like that and being prepared for that kind of day. And then hopefully the times will come.
And I know you've said that, it's been your goal to kind of to lower that number. So what's it like now chasing that? And what are some of the obstacles you found to try to get back to that level?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily chasing it to say, but I'm working towards it, and I know what I'm capable of doing. So it's just a matter of putting it down on the track at the right time. I think that's when anyone throws a PB, runs a PB, jumps a personal best. It's all about just putting it together that day. So when I'm ready to put it together that day, that's when it'll come.
And just going back to kind of your relationship with Shannon, when she was, looking to potentially come to Arizona, did you talk to her prior? Maybe if you did, what were some of the things you told her about why U of A might be the place for her?
Yeah, Shannon actually reached out to me that she wanted to come to the U of A. And I made sure that she got in touch with Coach Harvey, and, she asked about the program, what Coach Harvey was like. But she just really I think Shannon knew she wanted to come here because I think she saw what she was capable of doing, and obviously she's been able to show that what she's capable of doing. So she saw that potential in herself, and then when she came here, we saw that potential in her, and it's just been really exciting times to know that like she chose Arizona, and this is where she's chose to like grow as an athlete and to represent the U of A, which is really exciting for us.
I mean, obviously, there's great 400 hurdlers, all over the country. But what do you think's different, I guess, maybe about the way you guys train, maybe Coach Harvey's regiment that maybe sets you guys apart from potentially other places?
I think that anybody can do well depending on their coach and their relationship. I don't think that there's one specific thing that works well just for our group or for any other athlete. But the main thing is that Coach Harvey believes in us and we believe in Coach Harvey. We know what he has shown us and what he coaches us in works. So having that belief in him and him having that belief in us is what sets us apart as a pretty good hurdle group in the country.
Thanks, Sage.
No problem.
Any other questions? All right, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
You.